The night was bright with lights, music, and the sound of laughter. Inside the grand ballroom of the city's most expensive hotel, the rich and powerful gathered for a charity event. Men in black suits raised their glasses. Women in glittering dresses whispered secrets and cameras flashed everywhere. But for Mrs. Eleanor Graves, the millionaire's wife, the party was nothing more than noise. She smiled politely at guests, nodded at the waiters, and stood close to her husband, Mr. Henry Graves. He was the kind of man who never showed weakness. Tall, confident, and respected, but deep inside, both of them carried a wound that time could not heal. They had lost their only daughter, Lily, in a terrible accident years ago. The memory haunted Eleanor every single day. No wealth, no mansion, no jewels could fill the emptiness in her heart. That night, as she reached for another glass of champagne, Eleanor froze. Her hand trembled. Her heart skipped a beat. Across the ballroom, walking through the golden doors, came a young woman. She was about 20, her hair shining under the chandeliers, her face calm yet mysterious, and Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. "She looks just like Lily," Eleanor whispered. Clutching her husband's arm, Henry frowned, shaking his head. "No, it's impossible." But Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "Henry, look at her, the same eyes, the same smile. It's her." "I know it." Henry sighed, placing a hand over hers. "Our daughter is gone, Eleanor. Don't torture yourself." But Eleanor could not look away. The girl's movements, her gentle way of brushing her hair back, even the tilt of her head, it was Lily, grown older, alive, standing right there in front of her. The girl did not seem to notice them. She walked slowly past the crowd, avoiding cameras, avoiding attention. Her dress was simple compared to the others, a pale blue, elegant but not rich. Something about her presence felt out of place, like she did not belong in this world of luxury. Eleanor's heart pounded harder. "I need to speak to her," Eleanor whispered, already stepping forward. But Henry grabbed her wrist. "Stop, Eleanor. Don't make a scene." She pulled her hand free, her eyes fixed on the girl. The crowd seemed to blur. The music became faint. And all Eleanor could see was that familiar face. She moved closer, weaving between tables, ignoring the whispers of other guests. Her mind screamed one thought over and over. "It's Lily, it's Lily, it's Lily." When Eleanor finally reached the spot where the girl had been standing, she was gone. Panic rushed through her chest. She spun around, searching the room, but the girl had disappeared into the crowd. Her breathing grew heavy, her hands shaking. Henry joined her quickly, his voice sharp. "Eleanor, enough. This is madness." But Eleanor's eyes were wild with determination. "She was here, Henry. I'm not imagining it. I swear." Henry tried to calm her, but even he could not deny the strange truth. The girl had looked almost identical to their lost daughter, only older, and there was no reasonable explanation for it. Later that night, when the party was over, Eleanor sat awake in the limousine as they drove back to their mansion. Her husband remained silent, his eyes cold, refusing to believe. But Eleanor's mind raced with questions. If the girl was not Lily, then who was she? And why did she look so perfectly like their daughter? Sleep did not come to Eleanor that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the girl's face. By morning, her decision was clear. She could not let this go. She would find that girl no matter what it took, even if it meant uncovering secrets her husband did not want her to know. Eleanor stood by the tall window of her bedroom. Watching the sun rise over the city, her reflection stared back at her. Pale and restless for the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope mixed with fear. If the girl truly was Lily, then it meant everything she believed about loss, death, and fate was wrong. And if it was not Lily, then the mystery was even greater. Either way, she had to know the truth. Her heart whispered a dangerous promise. This is only the beginning. The morning after the charity event, Eleanor Graves could not sit still. Her hands shook as she held her teacup, spilling drops across the white tablecloth. Henry read the newspaper in silence, his face hidden, his jaw tight. But Eleanor's eyes were not on him. Her mind was back in that ballroom, on the girl who looked just like Lily. When Henry finally lowered the paper, his voice was stern. "Eleanor, listen to me. You must forget what you saw." She stared at him, her eyes wide. "Forget? How can I forget, Henry?" She was there, she was real. He shook his head slowly. "You saw what you wanted to see, nothing more." But Eleanor's voice grew sharp. "No, you didn't look closely. You were afraid to believe." Henry's lips pressed into a hard line. He did not answer, but his silence was louder than any words. That day Eleanor made her choice. If Henry would not help her, she would search alone. She called a driver, put on her dark coat and sunglasses, and returned to the city. Every face she passed on the street reminded her of the girl. Every shadow seemed to hide her. Hours went by, yet Eleanor felt the pull of something guiding her, drawing her down narrow lanes and quiet alleys. Late in the afternoon, she finally saw her. The girl walked quickly through a crowded street market, her pale blue dress now hidden under a plain jacket. She moved like someone always aware of danger, her eyes darting left and right. Eleanor's breath caught. Her heart leapt. There she was, flesh and blood. Not a dream. Quietly, Eleanor followed, keeping a safe distance, her shoes clicking softly on the stones. The girl walked past stalls of fruit, jewelry, and books, then slipped into a side street. Eleanor hurried after her, her pulse racing. At the end of the lane stood a small cafe, almost empty, its windows fogged with steam. The girl entered, sat in the back corner, and waited. Eleanor hid across the street, peering through the glass. Minutes later, 2 men joined the girl. They were tall, dressed in dark coats, their movements stiff, their faces serious. They sat close, leaning in, whispering words Eleanor could not hear. One of them passed the girl a small envelope. Sliding it under the table, the girl took it with trembling hands, quickly tucking it into her jacket. Eleanor's heart pounded. Who were these men? And why did they meet her like spies in the shadows? The girl did not smile, did not laugh, only nodded once before standing. The men left first, disappearing into the streets like ghosts. The girl sat alone for a moment, staring at her reflection in the window, her eyes heavy with secrets. Then she rose and walked quickly away. Eleanor waited a moment before following, but as she turned, her shoe caught on the curb, making her stumble. The girl glanced over her shoulder, her eyes locking with Eleanor's. For the first time, Eleanor froze, breathless, her heart screaming, "It's Lily, it's her!" But the girl's face showed no recognition, only fear. In a flash, she disappeared into the crowd. Lost once again, Eleanor stood trembling, her knees weak. She wanted to chase her, to grab her hand, to shout her name, but something held her back, a whisper of caution in her mind. If the girl was truly Lily, then why had she hidden? Why had she met those strange men? And if she was not Lily, then the mystery was darker than Eleanor could bear. That night, Eleanor could not sleep. She locked herself in her study, replaying every detail. The men in coats, the secret envelope, the girl's frightened eyes. On her desk lay the only clue, something she had picked up near the cafe. A small notebook the girl had dropped in her hurry. The cover was plain, but inside were strange marks, codes, and symbols Eleanor did not understand. Numbers, circles, and lines that looked more like maps than words. Her hand shook as she turned the pages. This was no ordinary diary. It was something hidden, something dangerous, and now it was in her possession. She closed the book and pressed it to her chest, whispering, "I will find you, I will find the truth." Down the hall, Henry called out to her, his voice sharp. "Eleanor, what are you doing at this hour?" She quickly hid the notebook in a drawer. Locking it tight, when Henry entered, she forced a smile. "Nothing, Henry. I couldn't sleep." He looked at her with suspicion but said no more. When he left, Eleanor's smile faded, replaced by determination. Her heart beat with new purpose. The girl was hiding something, and Eleanor was the only one willing to uncover it. She whispered into the silence of her study, "Tomorrow, I will follow again, and for the first time in years." Eleanor felt alive, driven by hope, fear, and the dangerous promise of answers. The notebook lay hidden inside Eleanor's desk drawer. She barely slept, her mind spinning with questions. At dawn, she unlocked the drawer again, her hands trembling. She opened the pages, staring at the strange codes and circles. The marks were unlike anything she had ever seen, and yet something about them felt purposeful, as if someone had drawn them with great care. She traced one of the symbols with her finger, whispering, "What are you hiding, my girl?" For the first time, Eleanor thought she might be in real danger, but the fear only made her resolve stronger. She needed help, someone who could read these codes, someone who could give her answers. Henry would never approve. He would call her foolish, perhaps even burn the book to end her obsession. So she made her decision. She would keep this secret to herself. By noon, Eleanor was sitting across from a private investigator, a man named Marcus Hale. He was not flashy like detectives in movies. No sharp suit or fancy office. He was plain, quiet, with eyes that saw too much and lips that spoke too little. "I don't take easy jobs," Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. "But something about your story, it doesn't sound easy at all." Eleanor slid the notebook across the table, whispering, "I need to know who she is and what this means." Marcus flipped through the pages slowly, his brow furrowing. "These aren't just random scribbles," he said. "These are patterns, maps maybe, but the language, I don't recognize it." He looked up at her, his eyes sharp. "Who gave you this?" "Mrs. Graves." Eleanor hesitated, then answered softly. A girl who looks exactly like the daughter I lost." Marcus's expression hardened. "You're telling me she's supposed to be dead?" "Yes," Eleanor whispered. "But she's alive." "I know she is." The room grew cold, the silence heavy. Marcus closed the notebook carefully. "If what you're saying is true, then this girl isn't just running from family. She's running from something bigger." That night, Marcus called Eleanor, his voice urgent. "I ran the fingerprints from the notebook," he said. "There's nothing, no match, not in any database," Eleanor's breath caught. "What do you mean, nothing?" Marcus replied. "It's like she doesn't exist, legally or otherwise." Eleanor clutched the phone tighter, her pulse racing. "Then check her DNA," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I have something. A hair strand I found caught in the book." Days passed. Heavy with tension, Henry noticed his wife's distant eyes, her distracted silence. One evening he confronted her. "Eleanor, you're hiding something." She shook her head quickly. "It's nothing, Henry, just my imagination." But Henry's eyes narrowed. His jaw clenched. He did not press further. But Eleanor knew he was beginning to suspect more than she wanted. Finally, the call came. Marcus's voice was low, almost frightened. "Mrs. Graves, I ran the DNA tests, and I don't know how to explain this." Eleanor's heart nearly stopped. "Tell me," she whispered, gripping the phone with both hands. "The DNA is a 99% match to your daughter Lily," Marcus said slowly. "It's impossible, but it's true." Eleanor sank into her chair, her vision blurring with tears. "It's her," she breathed. "It has to be her." But Marcus's next words sent a chill through her. "There's something else. Her DNA shows changes, markers I've never seen before, like it's been altered somehow." Eleanor's mind reeled, her stomach twisting. Altered? What could that mean? She remembered the men in dark coats, the secret meeting, the strange notebook. Was her daughter still human, or had something been done to her that night? Eleanor locked herself in her room. She spread the notebook on her desk, the pages glowing faintly under the lamp. She whispered to the empty room. "My daughter is alive, but what have they done to you?" "Lily." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but beneath the grief burned a stronger fire. If the world thought her daughter was gone, Eleanor would not rest until she uncovered the truth. The next morning, Eleanor confronted Marcus in his office again. "I want to know who those men were, the ones she met in the cafe," she demanded. Marcus nodded, sliding a photo across the table. "I found one of them. His name is Samuel Trent. But he's no ordinary man," Marcus explained. "He works for a private research group, one that doesn't answer to the government, one that doesn't even officially exist." Eleanor's stomach tightened. "And what are they researching?" Marcus gave her a long look, then whispered, "People, Mrs. Graves." "They study people." Eleanor's blood ran cold. Her daughter was alive, yes, but caught in something much darker, something that touched powerful men and secret organizations. Her voice shook, but her eyes were fierce. "Then we will find her, Marcus, and we will bring her home." But even as she spoke, she felt eyes on her. Someone was watching from across the street, a figure hidden in the shadows. The moment she turned her head, the watcher vanished. Eleanor's heart raced. The truth was closer than ever, but so was the danger. She left Marcus's office with the notebook clutched tightly to her chest. Her steps were fast, her mind louder than the city around her. Her daughter was alive, altered, and hunted. And Eleanor knew one thing for certain. She was willing to risk everything to save her. The night air was heavy as Eleanor walked through the dark streets. Her mind was still burning with Marcus's words. Her daughter's DNA was real, but altered. She clutched the notebook close, every step quick, every sound behind her sharper than before. She felt like eyes were following her. Yet when she turned, there was only the empty road. At the mansion, Henry waited for her, his face pale with anger. "Where were you again?" he demanded, his voice echoing through the wide hall. Eleanor held her coat tighter. Out, she replied coldly. Looking for the truth you refuse to see. Henry's fists clenched. Eleanor, this obsession will destroy you. Her eyes blazed with defiance. No, Henry, it will save her. They stared at each other in silence. The space between them filled with years of grief and now suspicion. That night, Eleanor dreamed of Lily. In her dream, Lily stood at the edge of a forest. Her eyes filled with fear, whispering, "They are watching us." When Eleanor tried to reach her, the ground opened, shadows swallowing her daughter. Eleanor woke with a cry, drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. She sat up in bed, whispering, "It wasn't just a dream. It was a warning." The following evening, her warning came true. She found the girl again, this time near the edge of the old train station. The girl wore the same plain jacket, her hair tied back, her steps quick. Eleanor followed carefully, staying in the shadows. Suddenly, the girl stopped and turned, her eyes locking on Eleanor. For the first time, the girl did not run. They stood face to face, the cold wind rushing between them. Eleanor's breath shook. "Lily," she whispered, her voice breaking. The girl's eyes softened for a moment, then hardened again. "Don't call me that," she said firmly. "They'll hear you." Eleanor's tears welled. "It's you, I know it's you." The girl stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You shouldn't be here. They are watching us right now." Eleanor grabbed her arm, desperate. "Who are they? What did they do to you?" The girl glanced around nervously. "I can't tell you everything, it's not safe. But you must stop looking for me if they find out you're involved. They will hurt you too." Eleanor shook her head fiercely. "I don't care, you are my daughter." The girl's lips trembled. For a second her mask cracked, showing the frightened child she once was, but then she pulled away, whispering, "I'm not the same anymore. They changed me." Before Eleanor could ask more, headlights appeared at the end of the street. A black car rolled forward slowly, too slowly, like a predator stalking its prey. The girl's eyes widened. She shoved Eleanor into the shadows.
"Hide!" she hissed. The car stopped. 2 men in suits stepped out.
The same kind Eleanor had seen at the cafe. The girl whispered quickly, "Trust no one. Not even those closest to you, they want to bury the truth." Then she turned and ran, her footsteps fading into the night. Eleanor remained frozen in the shadows, her heart hammering. The men scanned the area, speaking into small devices, their voices low and sharp. One of them looked directly toward where Eleanor hid, but after a long moment he turned away. Finally, they returned to the car and drove off, leaving only silence behind. Eleanor leaned against the wall, her knees weak, her chest aching with fear and hope. Her daughter was alive, yes, but tangled in something dark and dangerous, and her warning echoed in Eleanor's ears. Trust no one, not even those closest to you. Her thoughts turned to Henry. His strange silence, his sharp warnings, his refusal to believe. Was he protecting her or hiding something? The next morning, Eleanor sat across from Marcus again. Her voice was urgent. "She spoke to me, Marcus. She said they changed her. She said we can't trust anyone." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Changed her, how?" Eleanor shook her head. "She didn't explain, but she was terrified." Marcus tapped his fingers on the desk. "Then we're dealing with something bigger than a missing person case. This is an operation, and whoever they are, they don't want the truth exposed." He leaned closer, his voice low. "If she's telling the truth, Mrs. Graves, then your daughter wasn't just taken. She was made into something else." Eleanor's chest tightened. "But why?" Marcus replied darkly. "Because humanity has something they fear, and your daughter may be proof of it." That night, Eleanor sat in the dark study, staring at the notebook. The strange code seemed to glow under the dim lamp. As if alive, her daughter's warning repeated in her mind. "They are watching us." And in the silence of the great mansion, Eleanor felt it too, eyes in the dark, unseen but present, waiting for her next move. Her grief had once made her weak, but now it fueled her strength. She whispered into the shadows, "I will not stop, not until I bring her back." And though fear coiled around her, a deeper fire burned brighter. Eleanor was no longer just a grieving mother. She was a hunter of secrets, and she would not rest until she uncovered the hidden truth. The mansion felt colder than ever. Eleanor walked through its wide halls, her footsteps echoing against marble floors. Every portrait on the wall stared at her with silent eyes, as if warning her to stop, but she could not after seeing her daughter alive. Not after hearing the truth whispered in the shadows. Henry sat in the library that night, his glass of brandy untouched. He watched Eleanor carefully, his voice calm but heavy. "You are not yourself, Eleanor. This obsession has gone too far." Eleanor turned to him sharply. "It is not obsession, Henry. It is truth." "She is alive." Henry's eyes narrowed. "Even if she is, the people you are chasing are not to be challenged." The warning in his tone was unmistakable. Eleanor's chest tightened. "What do you know, Henry?" she demanded. But he only turned away, his silence louder than words. The next morning, Eleanor returned to Marcus's office. Her voice trembled. "She said they changed her, Marcus. What does that mean?" Marcus leaned back, his face grim. "I've been digging, Mrs. Graves. Those men you saw, the ones in black coats, they aren't just private security. They belong to something much darker." He slid a file across the desk. Old photos, strange reports, classified documents stamped with red ink. Eleanor flipped through them, her eyes wide. "What is this?" Marcus answered. "An organization hidden in plain sight. One that captures people for experiments. They've been active for decades. And your daughter was one of their subjects." Eleanor's throat tightened. "Experiments on children?" Marcus nodded slowly. "Not just children, but anyone who shows unusual resilience, strength, or intelligence. They want to understand what makes humans so hard to break." Eleanor's hands shook as she gripped the papers. "But why? What could they gain from destroying lives like this?" Marcus's eyes darkened. "Because they are not just humans themselves, Mrs. Graves. Some of them are working for something else." Eleanor froze, her heart hammering. "Something else." Marcus leaned closer, whispering. "They answer to forces outside this world. Outsiders who fear humanity's potential. They believe if they don't control us now, one day humans will rise too strong to stop." Eleanor's breath caught, her voice barely a whisper. "Aliens?" Marcus gave a single nod. "Not the kind we imagine in books, but real, hidden, ruthless." Eleanor closed her eyes, her heart breaking with fear and rage. Her daughter had not just been taken by men, but used by beings who saw humans as test subjects. And yet her daughter had survived, escaped, and returned. That alone meant something powerful. "Humanity," Marcus said, "is more dangerous than they realized. That's why she is still alive." She was proof that they could not control everything. That night, Eleanor sat alone in her study, staring at the notebook again. The symbols looked different now, no longer just codes, but warnings. She ran her fingers over the lines, whispering, "You were stronger than them, my Lily. You survived." Her grief was still there, but it had transformed into something fiercer. Pride. At midnight, Marcus called her again, his voice urgent. "Mrs. Graves, I think they know we've been investigating." Eleanor's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" "There's been a break-in at my office. Files stolen, my men attacked," Marcus said. "We don't have much time. They're coming after anyone who gets close." Eleanor stood by the window, looking out at the dark trees surrounding the mansion. For the first time, she felt the weight of the enemy pressing closer. Unseen but present. Later that week, it happened. The black cars returned, 3 of them. Pulling up to the estate in silence, dozens of men in suits stepped out. Moving with military precision, Henry rushed to Eleanor. His face pale. "They're here, stay in the house." But Eleanor shook her head, fire in her eyes. "No, I will not hide, not anymore." From the balcony, she watched as the men surrounded the mansion. Their faces were blank, their movements cold, as if they were more machine than human. She remembered her daughter's words, "Trust no one." And suddenly Henry's fear looked different. Was he protecting her, or was he part of their plan? The leader of the men stepped forward, calling out, "Mrs. Graves, we know you have something that belongs to us. Hand it over and no harm will come." Eleanor's chest tightened. Her eyes flicked to the locked drawer where the notebook lay. Her voice trembled but stayed firm. "This does not belong to you. It belongs to my daughter." The man's eyes narrowed. "Your daughter is not yours anymore. She belongs to us." Eleanor's blood boiled, anger surging through her veins. "No," she whispered fiercely. "She belongs to humanity. And humanity is stronger than you know." The men advanced, their footsteps echoing against the stone. Eleanor's heart raced, but for the first time, she did not feel powerless. She felt the fire of every mother, every human who refused to break. The fight had begun, and Eleanor knew the truth now. Her family's loss was no accident. It was part of a war. A war between humanity and those who feared it, and her daughter was the key. The proof that humanity could never be controlled. The night was silent except for the sound of engines outside the mansion. 3 black cars waited like predators at the gates, their headlights glowing like eyes in the dark. Inside, Eleanor stood at the top of the staircase, her fists clenched, her heart burning with both fear and fire. Henry paced the floor below, his face pale, his voice sharp. Eleanor, listen to me. Give them what they want and this will end. But Eleanor shook her head, her voice steady. No, Henry, they will not take her from me again. Henry stopped, his eyes flashing with something Eleanor had never seen before. Was it fear or guilt? The pounding on the front doors echoed through the hall, deep and threatening. Open up, a voice boomed. You cannot resist us, Eleanor whispered fiercely. Watch me. She pulled open the drawer, grabbed the notebook and held it close to her chest. The doors burst open, men in suits stormed inside, their faces expressionless, their movements sharp and cold. They carried weapons that gleamed under the chandelier light. Weapons Eleanor had never seen before. Sleek and silent, Henry raised his hands, shouting, Wait, don't hurt her. But the leader stepped forward, pointing at Eleanor. The book, now. Eleanor glared back, her voice strong. You will never have it. This belongs to my daughter. The man's lips curled in a faint smile. Your daughter is no longer yours, she is ours. She belongs to the ones who made her. Something inside Eleanor snapped. She stepped down the stairs slowly, her eyes never leaving his. You think you can own her, but you don't understand humanity at all, she said, her voice like steel. We are not your property. We are not your experiment. We are the storm you cannot control. The men moved forward, but suddenly the house shook with a low rumble. From the back doors, Marcus Hale entered with armed guards, his own private team. Rough men with rifles and strong resolve. Step away from the lady, Marcus shouted. His eyes blazing, the suits turned, weapons raised, the tension ready to snap. The mansion exploded with chaos. Gunfire cracked, shouts filled the halls. Flashes of light seared the air as the men in suits fired weapons that hissed like lightning. Marcus's men fought back with brutal force. Using human steel against alien design, the air smelled of smoke and fear. But through it all, Eleanor stood tall, clutching the notebook like a shield. She saw Henry frozen near the fireplace, his face pale as the battle raged. Henry, she shouted, help us. But Henry only stared. Torn between fear and something darker, Eleanor's heart sank, realizing her daughter had been right. Trust no one. Not even those closest. One of the suits charged toward her. Weapon raised, Eleanor ducked, the blast striking the wall above her. Showering sparks and stone, Marcus appeared at her side, grabbing her arm. We have to move. Now. They ran through the back halls, the thunder of battle chasing them. In the garden, Eleanor stopped, gasping for breath. The night sky was wide and black, stars shining cold above them. And there at the edge of the trees, she saw her, the girl, her daughter, waiting, her eyes wide, her body tense. Come with me, the girl called, her voice urgent. Eleanor rushed forward, tears in her eyes. Lily. But the girl shook her head sharply. Don't call me that, not now, they can hear everything. Her gaze turned toward the house, where lights flashed and glass shattered. They're not here for you, they're here for me, she whispered. I am the proof they fear. Eleanor grabbed her daughter's hands, refusing to let go. Then let them fear. We are stronger than they know. The girl's lips trembled. You don't understand, Mother, they changed me. I carry something inside me now, something they cannot control. Eleanor's grip tightened. Then that makes you dangerous to them, not to us. Humanity is not weak. And neither are you. Behind them, Marcus and his men poured into the garden, shouting orders. The suits followed, their strange weapons lighting the night. But this time, the battle was different. Marcus's men fought harder, faster, their courage unshaken. And Eleanor realized the truth. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their machines, but their spirit. The girl stepped forward, her eyes glowing faintly under the moonlight. She raised her hands, and for the first time Eleanor saw the change. A surge of energy rippled through the air, slamming into the suits, throwing them back like ragdolls. The men groaned, their weapons sparking, their control shattered. Eleanor gasped. What have they done to you? The girl whispered. They tried to break me, to use me, but instead they made me stronger. Marcus stared in shock, whispering, "She's not just human anymore." Eleanor turned to him fiercely. "No, she is human. She is more human than any of us, because she survived what no one should have." The last of the suits fell, retreating into the trees, dragging their wounded with them. The black cars roared to life, speeding away into the night. Silence fell over the garden, broken only by the heavy breathing of the survivors. Eleanor pulled her daughter into her arms, tears spilling down her face. "My Lily," she whispered. "They can never take you again." The girl hugged her tightly, her voice trembling. "It's not over. They will come back stronger than before." Eleanor's eyes hardened, her voice fierce. "Then we will fight, because humanity does not surrender." In that moment, under the dark sky, Eleanor realized the truth. Her daughter was no longer a victim. She was a symbol, a reminder that humanity could not be broken. No matter how hard the enemy tried, the fight was not finished, but tonight humanity had won its first victory. The garden was quiet after the battle. Smoke lingered in the air, the scent of burning wood and gunpowder clinging to every breath. Eleanor held her daughter tightly, afraid that if she let go, the girl would vanish again. But the girl's arms wrapped around her just as firmly, trembling but strong. Marcus and his men moved carefully across the lawn, checking the bodies of the fallen suits. Most of the enemy had retreated, but a few lay broken on the ground, their weapons scattered like strange relics from another world. "Look at this," Marcus muttered, picking up one of the sleek rifles. "This isn't human tech, I'd bet my life on it." Eleanor's daughter looked away, her voice low. "It's not. They gave them those weapons, the ones who changed me." Eleanor stroked her daughter's hair, whispering, "You're safe now. They can't hurt you anymore." But the girl shook her head. "No, Mother, you don't understand. They will never stop. They fear humanity too much to let me go." Her words cut through Eleanor like ice. For every moment of hope, there was still a shadow of danger waiting just ahead. Henry appeared at the edge of the garden, his face pale, his steps unsteady, his eyes locked on the girl, wide with disbelief. "It's true," he whispered. "She's alive." For a second, Eleanor wanted to run to him, to share her joy. But then she remembered the warning. Trust no one. She studied Henry's face, searching for guilt, for secrets. "Did you know?" she asked softly, her voice sharp as a blade. Henry's lips parted, his hands trembling. "I suspected, but I didn't want to believe. I thought if I stayed silent, they would leave us alone." Eleanor's heart twisted, anger and sorrow burning together. "You knew," she whispered. "And you let me suffer alone." Henry's face broke with shame. But before he could answer, the girl stepped forward, her eyes glowing faintly. "Stop," she said firmly. "It doesn't matter now. What matters is the choice we make tonight." Her voice carried a strange weight, not just human, but something greater. A power born from suffering and survival. Marcus frowned. "What choice?" The girl lifted the notebook, holding it high under the moonlight. "This book is more than codes. It is a record of everything they did to me, to others like me. If the world sees this, humanity will know the truth." Eleanor's chest tightened. "Then we must share it, let the world see." But the girl's eyes filled with pain. "If we expose it, the enemy will strike openly. They will bring war to every street, every home. Millions could die." Silence fell over the garden. Heavy as stone, Marcus clenched his fists. "And if we keep it hidden, they'll continue in secret. More children stolen, more experiments." The girl nodded slowly. "Either way, the choice is ours. Safety through silence, or danger through truth." Eleanor felt the weight of the decision press down on her soul. Her entire life she had been told to stay silent, to live quietly in wealth and grief. But now she saw her daughter, scarred yet unbroken, proof that humanity was not weak. Eleanor's voice trembled but grew strong. "The world deserves to know. Humanity must see what we are facing, only then will we stand together." The girl studied her mother's face, then slowly nodded. "You are right. Hiding only makes us weaker. Marcus's eyes hardened with resolve. Then we fight, and if they bring war, humanity will meet them with fire of its own. Henry's voice broke, desperate. No, Eleanor. Think about what you're saying. This will destroy everything we built. Eleanor turned to him, her voice sharp and final. Then let it burn. I would rather live in truth than in chains. Henry's shoulders sagged, his strength crumbling. He looked older than ever, defeated not by outsiders, but by the courage of his own wife. The girl stepped forward, placing the notebook in Eleanor's hands. Then you must be the one to reveal it, Mother, not me, she whispered. They see me as corrupted, as changed, but you are still human in their eyes. Your voice will carry the truth. Eleanor's fingers closed around the book, her chest heavy with both fear and pride. She kissed her daughter's forehead, whispering, I will not fail you. The dawn came slowly, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Eleanor stood on the balcony, the notebook clutched tightly, watching the world awaken below. She knew the enemy would return, stronger, fiercer, unwilling to lose control. But she also knew something greater, something no secret power could ever understand. Humanity did not surrender. It mourned, it bled, it broke, but always it rose again. Her daughter was living proof of that truth. And now Eleanor would carry it to the world no matter the cost. As the first rays of sunlight touched the mansion, Eleanor whispered into the morning air, You feared us because you knew one day humanity would rise. Her daughter stepped beside her, her hand warm and steady, and together they looked out at the horizon ready for the war to come, because the final choice had been made. Truth over silence, resistance over surrender, humanity over fear, and in that choice, humanity had already won.